අයිබෝ මම පොඩි වීඩියෝ ක්ලිප් එකක් කරනවා ලංකාවේ චීනයේ ආර්ථික සම්බන්ධතා ගැන. මම මේ වීඩියෝ එක කරන්න ලෑස්ති වෙන්නේ ඉංග්‍රීසියෙන්. කවුරු හරි කෙනෙක් හිතනවා නම් මේක සිංහලෙන් කරා නම් හොඳයි කියලා මට කමෙන්ට්ස් වල කියන්න. මම more than happy to සිංහලෙන් කරන්න පුළුවන් ඉංග්‍රීසි පස්වරක් නැතිව කවුරු හරි කෙනෙක් ඉල්ලනවා. In this brief video, I argue that Sri Lanka needs to officially recognize China as Sri Lanka's principal strategic partner in the Indian Ocean. As I'm deeply passionate about international relations of Sri Lanka, I have gained a master's degree in international security and law from a Danish university, and I have a BA honor degree in international politics from a London university. Since Sri Lanka's relations with China is a very timely topic, I wanted to articulate on this novel idea. Here in Sri Lanka, Chinese investments and loans are seen as death traps by some local politicians. A part of the population too is fearing that. Those who see China as an adversary in the West and beyond is also alleging China is exploiting nations like Sri Lanka. In this sense, Hambantota Harbour and Colombo Port City projects are perceived as pockets of Chinese influence and colonies. Recent visit of Defense Minister of China Wei Fenghe has also puzzled the international community about Sri Lanka's relationship with China. First of all, we have to ask, why not Sri Lanka form her principal strategic partnership with India in Indian Ocean? We are in Indian Ocean after all, right? And that has to make more sense. However, we have to realize we live in a historic times, and constant Indian interferences in sovereign issues of Sri Lanka bars Sri Lanka formalizing such strategic partnership with India. Sri Lanka basically need a wedge to balance Indian political influence in Sri Lanka. What do I mean by historic times? That means China is here to stay. Our history books have only written about Indian kings and invaders. But in future, if we jump 100 years ahead, our history books will be talking about China too. Hopefully not about kings and invaders. We never want kings and invaders, right? In other words, ever expanding fleet of Chinese Navy will not be absent in international waters like that happened in 1433 with Shanghai's fleet. So the point is that China is here to stay. The naval presence of China will not only be felt in South China Sea, but with time it will be felt across Pacific and Atlantic oceans too. At this point, we need to be clear about what prevents us formalizing our principal relations with India and Indian Ocean. By nature, because of proximity and the size of Indian landmass, Sri Lankan gravitational force will always be linked to India. However, throughout the history, we see India was not quite there, being a true friend to Sri Lanka and to Sri Lankan narratives. For an example, we see how King Ravana is perceived as a demon and all-liver. Hindu festival Dussehra burns Ravana effigies every year to celebrate the victory of good over evil. If we catapult ourselves to today, the recent Indian abstention at UN Human Rights Council, an Indian push to implement 13th Amendment in Sri Lanka speaks volume for that direction. Even if India never want a separate Tamil state in Sri Lanka, but it always play with that idea, favoring Tamil Nadu politicians. Imagine the worst that could happen. Tamil Nadu one day could produce a prime minister in India. When that happens, our sovereign integrity will be damaged badly. One could think that one day in future, Indian military can challenge Chinese influence in Indian waters. So what will happen to Sri Lanka? One has to understand that Indian economic and military capabilities are trapped in a big dilemma. Resource scarcity and larger population back home, and coziness of India being unique in chaos will always keep India in that despair. One way or another, you cannot have a strategic partnership with one who tactically meddles in domestic affairs of yours and call you an evil, and at the same time call you a good friend. We cannot have that. Okay then, why do I think China needs a principal strategic partner in Indian Ocean? It is simple. It is because for the foreseeable future, China cannot have such a partnership with any maritime neighbors in South China Sea, yet alone in Indian Ocean. My reading of today's situation is that China is strongly feeling isolated in South China Sea and beyond, and therefore China is so eager to formalize the strategic partnerships. Since Obama's conceptualization of pivot to Asia, the US is working fiercely to maintain its unipolar world through a NATO-like Indo and Pacific Oceans Treaty Agreement. The Quad and the Five Eye, or whatever they are called, they all are heading for that direction. Trump's trade war and Morrison's wine war have further intensified regional disputes and have further isolated China. If you never heard about Morrison's wine war, you better go and have a look at it. It's a very interesting story. Then comes the long-standing issue of Taiwan. Anyone who pays attention to that region knows that Chinese military is just about to go for full extent to invade Taiwan soon. Hong Kong's independence and recent issues of Xinjiang and Uruguay are also making China isolated. But what triggered out to be the worst for China is that perceived violations of UNCLOS or maritime laws in South China Sea have antagonized all her maritime neighbors. That means from Japan in the east to Malacca Strait in the west, China has no true friend. It seems, understandably, China will not have a single true friend until guns are fired and new peace deal is bestowed upon them. So today's China is extremely longly positioned militarily and strategically speaking. China's heavyweight strong allies are not in Indian Ocean or in South China Sea. So back to the point of mine. As in the past, when Sri Lanka and China came together with Rice Rubber Agreement, displaying true nature of our nations and its people, we can again be true partners in Indian Ocean. In concluding, with all odds, Sri Lankan government and the Communist Party of China need to sit down together and explore this novel idea of principal strategic partnership in Indian Ocean. Meanwhile, as President Rotabe officially requested from Mr. Yang Jiechi in last October, China needs to demonstrate that Hambantota Harbour and Colombo Port City are not just debt traps. An insignificant amount of monetary compromise to China could bring a world of wonders to Sri Lanka and its people. And if the Communist Party of China are willing to deviate some of its maritime traffic in favor of Hambantota Harbour and guide some unhindered private investments towards the initial stage of Port City, the Communist Party of China and its people will most likely be winning the hearts and minds of adversaries in Sri Lanka. That kind of precedent will set the Premier Xi Jinping's One Road and One Belt initiative to the next level and beyond. To gain all this, such principal partnership needs to respect sovereign integrity of Sri Lanka and military superiority of Sri Lankan forces in peacetime. With that, the government of Sri Lanka needs to make some allowances to Chinese establishments within the island. Until next time, you have a nice day, guys.